So I just finished making the tzatziki and it's just sitting here off to the side marinating in itself, and then I'm going to taste test it and see if I want to add more salt and pepper. And so when you do make the recipe, just make sure that you taste it and then adjust your seasonings accordingly. You could also add fresh cut dill to your tzatziki if you like. I just didn't do it, and sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Alright, anyway, so now I'm going to make high protein jello pudding, and when I put my recipe into my Fitness Pal, half cup portion actually has 17 grams of protein, not 15. And so the ingredients are, I use 1 box of Fat Free Jello pudding. They come pre-sweetened, and this is totally good for post-bariatric surgery diet. So as I mentioned before, it was great in the full fluid. You could eat this pureed anytime, even though now I've graduated to eating quote-unquote normal diet. I still have this around the house for when I need to up my protein for the day, or maybe it's later in the day and I just need a small snack and I don't want to eat anything too heavy. And also because of my job, it's hard for me to get my breaks in and get in food, and this is something that at this stage with my stomach I can get down pretty quick, and so that's a big game changer for me for as far as nutrition and then meeting your protein goals. So it's 1 pack of fat-free Jello pudding, and like I said, you can do this with whatever flavor you like, as long as it's the fat-free one. And then what I do is I add protein powder to boost it. So 2 protein powders that I've been using during this journey is the Beniprotein and the Isopure unflavored. These are unflavored. And this is a whey isolate. This is also a whey protein. This one has 6 grams of protein per little scoop. Now I'm not going to use this in this recipe, I'm just showing you this because this stuff was great all throughout this, and I used it more in the earlier stages of the diet, not so much now, because I could add it to like a half cup of pureed soup or to some chicken broth, and this one dissolves really well into warm liquids. I mean, you still have to mix it a bit, and it didn't add too much of a flavor. You will taste the protein in your food, and it just takes some getting used to. So this one I recommend. You can also buy, Boost has one that's an unflavored protein that has the same nutrition profile, but it's cheaper. So you could buy this one or you could buy the Boost one, and we found Boost at like Shoppers Drug Mart and other local drugstores in our neighborhood. So, and FYI, if this is your first time watching my videos, I live in British Columbia, Canada, so any information that you've seen in my videos is based from a Canadian, BC perspective, especially when in my previous videos when I talked about pursuing bariatric surgery and the referral processes and stuff like that, because it's a little different than the States, and also to the diet program that they have you on afterwards is different. And I found that in my research, everywhere across Canada and the States, how you progress through your diet after surgery is different all over the place. So it seems there's really no one standard, but the ones I talk about is based off the one from Richmond Metabolic and Bariatric Center here in British Columbia. Alright, so for this recipe, I'm going to use the Isopure whey protein. And I'm putting, sometimes air pockets get in the bottom and that's not full. 2 scoops of this. So one scoop of this protein powder has 25 grams of protein. So by putting 2 in here, plus the wee 0.3 grams in the Jello, and then the protein in the milk, once it does its math, a half cup portion ends up with 17 grams of protein. Before I add my liquid, I use a whisk. This is really important to do, to kind of blend the protein powder and the pudding mix together. I'm just going to use my wet dishcloth to hold my bowl steady for me. And I'm not going to worry too much about lumps, because one thing that when I was healing and I was in the beginning diet stages, I got really worried about lumps in food and making sure things were smooth. So I just started putting the pudding mix through the sieve right after. So I've got my sieve from earlier. I washed it so I don't get lemon in this. And the instructions always tell you to whisk until it starts to get thick. I don't got time for that. So what I do is I pour it back through, and because I don't like using tons of dishes, I just put it right back into my measuring cup. See all those lumps? Yeah, it's some pudding mix, but whatever. And then what I do now, like before I was putting these into just glass bowls and putting them in my fridge, but it actually takes up a lot of storage space in your fridge, and that's kind of hard to take to work. So now I just put them in these little Tupperwares. I could show you, like this half cup measuring cup I keep out all the time. Everything I eat, I either weigh on my digital scale or I measure with my half cup measure. Most of my food portions are half a cup. Most of my meat portions are 2 ounces, so that includes like sliced hams from the store. Once in a while I eat chicken, turkey. I've had pork once, went okay. So 2 ounces of meat usually, and half a cup of other things. So my yogurt breakfast, half a cup. My pudding, half a cup. Soup, half a cup. You get the idea. So now I'm just gonna divide these into 4, and earlier I measured to make sure that these little guys held a half a cup, so I know up to the line. And your volume's going to change a bit because of the protein powder. So this ends up being just slightly more than half a cup, but it's negligible difference. And then I'm just gonna put these in the fridge, and they thicken up. The one thing that I noticed with adding the protein powder to the pudding though is that the pudding isn't as stiff or thick, if you will, as without it. So it's a bit of a softer consistency, but it's still like spoon, it's still pudding, if that makes sense. It's just not as dense as before. So that's your high protein pudding. Great little snack. Bump up your protein numbers for the day if you're having a hard time. Easy to eat. You can treat it like dessert if you want at the end of the day or in the middle of the day. And this was actually a big game changer for me in the earlier stages of the post-op diet. All right, so tzatziki, protein pudding, and I'll show you what I do with the tzatziki later when I make my dinner. It's really good. Okay, guys, thanks.